Hello and welcome to the Confusion Wrestling Podcast, the last bastion of independent wrestling. I'm your host, Rob Kammer. New year, officially speaking. I know technically last week's year-end review was the first episode of the new year, but now we're jumping into the new year proper. First up is a tag team coming out of the Buffalo, New York area, the Third Shift, Flux, Adam Carter, coming into the studio to talk about their formation their formation as a tag team as I stumble over every word I try to get out of my mouth. Anyway, they're having on the show two cool dudes trying to work their way up through the ranks, hoping to make a name for themselves in the independent wrestling scene and hopefully to live their dream, taking on FTR amongst others. So we'll talk about that sort of fantasy booking amongst, well, a whole bunch of other wrestling and non-wrestling related stuff as we go along. So let's not take up too much more time with this introduction. Let's just go get a coffee. Go get a coffee maker, get yourself an energy drink, and we'll be back, un momento, with Third Shift. Hey folks, the Confusion Wrestling Podcast has become a veritable hub of shopping and treats and all that sort of good stuff. Whether you need a sugar-free alternative to energy drinks in the form of Raise Energy, or maybe even, top-of-the-line ice makers, coffee machines, and other household appliances, all through my links section. All you got to do is wander down to the descriptor of this week's episode, check out the various links, click on them, and go shopping like you normally would. Heck, it's no difference. You just came in and just said Rob sent you. And that way, you can get the things you need, maybe even at a discount, and the podcast gets a kickback as well. So be sure to check out those links. Thank you very much for listening. Back to the show. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, the Confusion Wrestling Podcast. In the studio with me today is upcoming tag team from the East Coast, New York area specifically. It is Adam Carter and Flux. They are Third Shift. Gentlemen, how are you doing this evening?
Doing well, man. Thanks for having us. Glad to be on.
So, since you guys are a tandem, I'll skip my usual starter question because it's just going to turn into weird back and forth. But we'll just kind of jump into you guys coming together as a team. So for those of us who aren't familiar with your work, how did you guys end up coming together?
Well,
you can start.
Yeah, I mean, it goes pretty deep. Flux and I have known each other probably since we were 15 years old. We became friends through a mutual friend. Started backyard wrestling together as kids, man. Years went on. Flux here cut a deal with me and said that if he finished his training, which I'll let him get into where and how that happened, that when he came home, I would join the local wrestling school, which is Grapplers Anonymous. And he finished out his journey when he came home, and we started training here at home together. I'll let him go into where and how he trained before he got to Grapplers Anonymous himself.
Yeah, I just had my 4-year anniversary in October. I started out in Knoxville, Tennessee, home of the JPWA. Dr. Tom Pritchard, the greatest coach in the history of this business. And did 6 months down there in Knoxville. And after that was up, we cut that deal. He held his other half of the bargain. And 4 years later, we're tagging. So, yeah.
Right on. I do have to ask, because I don't think I've had anyone on the pod that's trained under Dr. Tom. How's he like? I've actually heard nothing but good things about how he trained.
Doc is so patient. I'm sure he learned that from Dory Funk. But, you're frustrated when you're learning how to do this because it's so hard to learn how to do your skills. And Doc's so patient that he would just look at me or look at anyone and say, hey, this takes thousands and thousands of hours. This takes days. This takes practice. This takes everything you got. Don't get frustrated. Just keep working hard. And that's probably the best way I can describe Dr. Tom to someone.
I mean, as I said, I've heard nothing but good things for him. And looking at his track record of who he's took to the either trained from the ground up or taken to the next level, like it's a who's who of the business. So that's a great pedigree to have. And congratulations on the move, because like Tennessee's quite a bit away from New York.
Yeah, I packed my car up from Buffalo, drove 12 hours down, and moved into a house with 3 strangers I'd never met before. If I didn't get to do tough enough, but it felt like tough enough for those few months, so it was fun.
And so you made your way back and forced Adam into another batch of boot camp, or at least his own version of boot camp. So how did that go for you, Adam?
Well, man, I couldn't have landed in a better place or ended up with a better trainer. Here at Buffalo, New York, Grapplers Anonymous. Our trainer is Mikey Evernight. He is the man. This is the same house that gave us Danny Garcia, Hayden Backlund, Kevin Blackwood, all product of Grapplers Anonymous in Buffalo, all product of Mikey Evernight. Um, he teaches you everything about the business beyond wrestling. He teaches you, how to set up the ring. If you want to learn how to book, he'll teach you how to book. You want to learn how to be a manager, he'll teach you that. He'll teach you anything. Probably the most underrated, underappreciated name in the indie training wrestling scene.
Northeast?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And I don't know where I was going with that. Brain fart. Maybe I'll cut it out. Maybe I won't.
You're all right.
But yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like I compared to some other schools, I Grapple Pro for having some of those folks. I'm not as familiar with their work. And when you sent me some stuff to go by, I like went down the rabbit hole a wee bit and like, yeah, this is good stuff actually. Like, and well, that's the beauty of independent wrestling, is there's great stuff just hidden away everywhere. So have you guys always like wanted to tag together, or is that something that just kind of, I don't know, happenstance lucked into it, or how did that work out?
We used to beat the hell out of each other. This is my second favorite opponent ever. So I mean, but once it started to come to fruition as we can do this and make this happen, that's like, yeah, where else would we go? Well, we're gonna do this. Let's do it.
The third shift started off as a joke at probably 22 years old, sitting on the couch after partying all night, and 10 years later became a real thing. Funny enough.
That is true.
And I was going to ask kind of like where the concept of third shift came by, because at least with like I say, with the recent stuff that I looked at, like the name just didn't kind of fit like what I've seen of the story, how this kind of like storyline came through. Where, and you can correct me if you're wrong, because it's not like I spent days upon days. It's just some free time. But you kind of came in, at least this variation came in as life coach mentor for Flux, and then all of a sudden you're like, we get the announcement they are now known as the third shift, and I'm like, well, that's
So,
interesting.
We kind of took a little bit of reality and threw it into what we had going on, and I really blew out my knee while training, and had to take a year off halfway through my training before I ever even had a match. So we added that element in, and the third shift concept here is Flux. The party never stops, and with Adam Carter, the fight never stops, whether it's within life or in the ring.
Well, and obviously that's, as you said, put it, mix the in ring with the outer ring. How frustrating was that to blow your knee in training just so early into getting things going?
Probably about 6, 7 months into my training, completely tore my ACL and meniscus. So frustrating and painful to be, in arm's reach of the goal and having a first match and getting ready to achieve the goal of being a pro wrestler. And then, I started training at 30, so it was no easy task to come back and having to. And I will always be proud to have the experience of sitting and watching each show while I'm sitting here with a torn ACL, wishing that I could do that, and I'll always be proud of my peers that I watched rise to the occasion in the times that I had to sit aside and watch all of that. But it was painful. Um, you want to be out there doing the same thing that you're watching everybody else do, and but it drives you. I never lost sight of the goal. Not once. Not once did I second guess if I was gonna come back and continue the mission, which was become a pro wrestler and tag with my best friend.
Do you think being forced on the sidelines like that gave you forced a change in perspective per se? Because you're already like learning the business at this time, and now you're just like forced to sit and almost just sit and study the entire time.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, it taught me, which is something that you have to have in pro wrestling as it is, patience.
Oh yeah.
It taught me to have patience and just keep going. Me, like I said, I would have never thought twice to say I'm not going to come back. As far as I made it along training, but patience is definitely something that I learned along the way. You have no choice.
Right.
You can hardly walk for some odd months. You have no choice but to be patient. The most painful thing and hardest thing would be um, going into the gym on training days all with my knee all wrapped up, and I want to be a part of the team, so I just want to be there, but I have to watch, and there's things that new people are trying to learn that I'm standing there going, well, you should do it this way. Well, I want to get in there and show them you can't, so.
With that, I guess the logical step is, you know, have you put a thought into coaching at all? I mean, whether it's now or as your career winds down. I could go for you too, Flux. But you didn't have a cool story about sitting there telling people that how they should be doing things.
He definitely does.
I'll let you go first.
I would. So both of us have our experience in coaching in the past. So I would say, like ever before wrestling, long before wrestling, and when you add our love for the world of pro wrestling into the love of teaching and coaching and trying to push people to the next level and trying to get the best out of them, I think it's bound to happen eventually. But for me, I'm a firm believer that you have to build a resume and you have to build a reputation before you can just go out there and train people. You got to have the proof to back it up. You can't just jump into the training world and say, "Oh, I'm a trainer." I mean, our trainer says all the time. People do it all the time. They say, "Hey, I'm a trainer." And God bless them, but it's not my vision or approach of how I'd like to approach it. I'd like to get a good 10 to 15 years out of this and wrestle well-known names in well-known places in front of good crowds to say, yeah, I did that, so that's why you should listen to me.
Right.
So, my 20s, I spent 6 years coaching college football at
Oh,
Buffalo State College. So, to your question, basically he answered it. But when you get done, let's say late 40s, early 50s, I would love to impart my knowledge onto anyone. I miss coaching so much, but once you decide to get away from that and pivot, and I decided to pivot, now my mind is just full on wrestling at this point.
oh, and to your point, the people who have done it or jumped in with no experience and now are coaching. I do like to retell the witty tale of it was Sam Holloway who come on the show when he was training, where like one of the schools he went to, he did like the walkthrough and talked with the coach, and he's like, "I'll have you on the show this weekend," and and they didn't elaborate. So in my head, I'm just like praying that he meant like, "Oh, you can do security or you can." You can set
Right.
up chairs or something. But Sam's also like, if you're not familiar with him, he's also like 6'10". So I could see them being like, you are backup for, our biggest, our
Right.
biggest jerk around or whatever, and actually like throwing him at least ringside when he doesn't quite know what he's doing either. But he chose his words carefully and didn't elaborate, let alone throw anybody on under the bus for that. But just
Being around football players all our lives, I can tell you this. I've been on 2 shows with Sam, and when you're looking up, legitimately up at someone, you're just going, is this real right now? This man is this tall.
that was like a fun part of the conversation where we talked about like the height and like what was it like getting. He's worked a handful of folks his size, and like what's that like? Also, someone work that you can look in the eye when there's not that many people running around. It's 6'10", and then it turns out he also worked Microman.
That must have been a sight.
So there's nearly like, I mean, in like 4 feet difference between the two of them and a language barrier. And evidently the secret was that they communicated via TikTok.
Oh, okay.
Microman just like pulled out. Oh, I'm throwing my phone around. We don't need it anyway. Just he pulled out, put up TikTok and like showed his greatest hits, and then just went like, see, no, and like, okay, see, I can do that. They just went out and did a micro. It was like a scramble, so they just did a couple of Microman spots and went his very little way. But it's like, dude, that's crazy. Welcome to wrestling. Yeah, the huge guys taking on the little guys.
It's a world where if you tell outsiders a story, they won't believe you most of the time because things are just so out there. People from all types of walks of life, walks of sizes and shapes and everything.
Talk with Matt Hatter last month, and he was just like, yeah, wrestling is just so weird. Just and it's filled with people who usually through their own machinations, but not always, like just the weirdest stuff like just comes to them, and like sometimes it's the consequence of their own actions, but sometimes it's just, oh, it's wrestling, so obviously this weird thing is just gonna happen for no good reason, so you might as well just live with it and point and laugh if necessary.
People you couldn't even create on a Saturday Night Live skit, for real. Nice people.
I say, yeah, most of them are great, and like I always like in my time, like I've said 1,000 times on this podcast, like I am not trained, I am not a wrestler, I have not stepped through those ropes except for a photo op with Big Van Vader like 15 years ago.
I mean,
that was amazing in its own right. But but I'm like, man, weird wrestling stuff has happened to me just going around talking to folks, whether it's via this podcast or going going to events and meet and greets. So like I tell the witty tale of like I almost got in a fight with Abaddon of all people, and
I want to hear more of this.
Oh, she was gonna square up. She like I'm a tall dude. I'm not Sam Holloway tall, but I'm like a foot taller than her. And it was all misheard me. So we're making small talk. The way the venue is. This is for those who might know, it's the Knights of Columbus in LaSalle, Illinois. But the merch is set up in a way that it's like really hard just to go pick and choose who you want to go see. You almost have to do a full lap around the tables, and it leads to just kind of like awkward standing around for like, oh, I'm talking to you for a little bit, but I'm mostly talking to you just because I'm standing here and I'm going to be stuck here for the next 3 minutes until the line moves up. So like I was making small talk with Abaddon as because the person in front of me, I don't know, either finished or wasn't interested in talking to them, and we were making some small talk. We started talking wrestling video games because they're a wrestling video game nerd. I'm a wrestling video game nerd. And like famously in my little circles, like in the AEW Fight Forever game, her and I were best friends, and then they left me for Dustin Rhodes in the story, like in the I forget, it was a Fight Forever mode or whatever the story mode is. Like that was the thing. So we were kind of talking about that, and that led to us talking about just other wrestling games. And I said like I did enjoy Fight Forever, but the creator wrestler was like the worst I'd ever dealt with. And then I amended myself and like no, it's like the third worst maybe. SmackDown 1 and Raw 2 cause were terrible, and she just heard the phrase raw, the words Raw 2 and terrible, and her head snapped up like I slapped her. Like she was down like signing stuff and whatever, and then just like, oh yeah, Raw 2 cause are terrible. What did you just say?
Yep.
And like it was the process of like squaring up. Like there's a foot difference in a table full of merch between us, and I'm like, no. I love Raw 2. I which I do. I legit love Raw 2 because the game is insane. The cause is terrible, but the game is insane for anyone who hasn't played. If you can get it for Xbox, the OG Xbox, it's an insane game where you can drop anvils on people and have pizza parties. Like the game is nuts. But they legit like squared up with me over Raw 2. And I'm like, this is why I bring handlers with me to protect me from myself. Like even if this time I was just misspeaking or I was misheard and not being a troll like I normally am. But like, where else is this going to happen where a little zombie is going to square up with you over a video game?
If I ever heard a crossword about Here Comes the Pain, I was
going to say the same about Legends of Wrestling.
See, the funny thing is like a lot of people don't like Legends of Wrestling.
A classic, though. That's for me. That's a game that like that game is why when I was a kid I knew who Dusty Rhodes was, and I knew who like Terry? The guys. Terry Funk and like all those guys. Like that's why I knew who those guys were.
I bought the second one like way after it came out because one, it was less than $5, and then two, like when eBay was really like a really big thing, and now and you could buy things used for cheap. Like I would buy wrestling games just for the roster because I could get it for $5 or less, and like, yes, Planet Stasiak is in this game. Of course I want it. It's less than $5. I have $5 plus shipping to spare, or if I can get it shipping for free shipping, I have the $5 to spare. But yeah, I picked up a copy of the second Legends of Wrestling, partially for the roster, but mostly but specifically Andy Kaufman's in the game, and yes. I am a huge Andy Kaufman fan. And then it turns out like he even has there's even a special storyline in the game if you play through if you go to the Southern Territory as Jerry Lawler. There's a special Andy Kaufman storyline for anyone who's into the old games and playing the story modes. Like so, like is the game like yeah, I can see the flaws in the game, but man, you got all the Von Erichs. Well, most of the Von Erichs, not all of them. You're missing Chris, but and Andy Kaufman, Strike Force, like all it is a game that made my 5-year-old heart very, very happy.
That's what I'm saying. Like I was a kid and I had it on PlayStation 2, and all of my favorite Legends were already on it, and then that, like I said, that was my introduction to so many other Legends that some of them are some of my biggest influences today, such as Dusty Rhodes.
I think it's one of like the little things that I do think video games are a very underrated source of fandom. If I can just get on this weird soapbox that's not really about you guys, just because like some of my friends, like that's the only way they knew about wrestling was basically because I would buy a game like I'd buy the game like every other year, and like so like, oh who's that? Oh, that's what that person's doing now, because like they would watch like like they'd see things just enough, but like they wouldn't necessarily know the undercard or like that WWE picked up this person, or or if you're going to like the AEW games or Legends of Wrestling for that matter, like these people even these people even exist. Like it's it's just kind of crazy, go nuts. And then as an adult fan in in my 40s now, like kind of like sometimes breaking out those games and just seeing who's in the game alone is just like, like Jerry Lynn made a game. I forget if it's Just Bring It or Shut Your Mouth, but it's one of those two, because I mix up those two games. And like Jerry Lynn WWE for like 4 months made a video game appearance.
I want to buy Just Bring It is because I want to play as Jerry. Jerry's in my top 10.
Yeah, it's like I bought that because I can't remember who I bought it for, but it wasn't Jerry Lynn. But I didn't know he was in the game, and just like and then I started playing through like, Jerry Lynn's here. Sweet. He was with the company for like a literal cup of coffee.
Yep.
Came in, won the light heavyweight championship, lost the light heavyweight championship, cut a not great promo at WWE New York, and then just disappeared from WWE television before his release. Like,
You ever hear the story about that? I just watched that story recently. Paul Lee told him to give that much emotion, and he listened to Paul, so he can blame Paul for that.
And I mean, I not that I, but for like Jerry's never been the strongest of promos, but I just always thought it was funny, like seeing just like Jerry Lynn being like kind of normal, and then like he'd always like end his promos with some like death metal growl and just like, oh, which is I guess real Jerry Lynn, like I've seen from various interviews where they talk about we're like, oh, nicest guy in the world, so soft spoken, and then he's like, I'm going to go see Guar and Pig Butcher later.
that was my first ever seminar, was Jerry Lynn at Grapplers Anonymous, and he was one, so knowledgeable, obviously, right? And two, what a great guy.
Yeah, I've not heard a crossword about him, and he's a guy like who's done a lot more than a lot of like veterans out there in terms of like that's still in a teaching capacity, because like he's wrestled in the AWA. He had that killer run with Sean Waltman and I think it was Global, and then going from Mr. JL to ECW to WWE to early days of TNA, just been everywhere, like in ways like veterans that have been around like as long as him in terms of major companies like hadn't been able to do.
His matches in 02 and TNA, I still watch today to get inspired, and I'd say those matches are in my top 10. The triple threat with him and Chris Daniels.
Yeah,
get goosebumps.
Yeah, like his TNA, like honestly, if I rewatch things like his TNA run, he had a banger of a match with Scotty 2 Hottie for the light heavyweight championship. Like that's just like because people wouldn't think of like having a banger with Scotty 2 Hottie, but Scotty's actually really good. It's just he's tiny and got saddled with stupid gimmicks.
All right.
And then
he made it work.
Hey, no, I mean
that's an attest to how good he is. That shows how good he is.
And you can work and you can wrestle a lower impact style if you're just, especially now where you're just like, just do the worm. And he's just, he's still putting on good matches, but he doesn't have to, kill himself to do it either. He can just come in and play some of the hits and have a very solid match with whomever, well, at this page, whoever he wants or wherever he's going. And I guess he's teaming with his kid now. So, extra cool on him. So he can't complain about that kind of stuff. Man, we've gone completely off the rails on that one. Going from coaching to video games to Jerry Lynn to Scotty 2 Hottie. We're just
we both love wrestling. It'll be easy to get off track.
I mean, do I regret any of these things? No. I had a guest on here, and we just talked like the bad good wrestling for like 40 minutes before we did anything to like even put him over, like what he's doing. Like we didn't even reference like why he's on this podcast essentially, like, and then he's just like how'd you fall in love with wrestling? And he talk about wrestling and then talks about like all the terrible wrestling he likes to watch, and then he's just like, well, I know you like to watch terrible wrestling, what's your favorite terrible wrestling? And then we're like talking about Heroes of Wrestling and the American Wrestling Federation, and I'm like looking at the clock and like we're 45 minutes in and we've not talked about your career at all, which is fine. I think it's a fascinating listen, but like in my head also, but I feel a tinge of guilt because I'm also not putting anybody over doing this directly. But I guess as long as people are enjoying themselves, that's the important thing at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
So, and it's cool just being able to talk wrestling because Lord knows the people around me in my real life are tired of me talking wrestling. That being said, since we've like talked about like the legends and people have come through and you guys have seminars with, we'll kind of like merge all these conversations. But you talked about building a resume before going into coaching. Who are some guys that are active in any way, shape, or form that you guys want to step in the ring with, either as a team or flying solo, to build that resume?
Can I say number one tag team? Yeah. If we could We could get in there with FTR right now. That would be a dream come true.
Any act, like if you're asking me any active wrestler on any level, yeah, I'd say our style and who we are, I would enjoy a match with them, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless I'm mistaken, AEW Tag Team Champions. So I mean, they're top of the hill again, in a company that's known for their tag team wrestling. So obviously, you can make the argument that they may be the best tag team in the world at the moment.
Yes.
My indie would be Brock. What about you? If I had to go 1-on-1, it'd be Brock for me.
1-on-1. Well, I'm gonna go on the lower level. If there's any wrestler that I could pick to wrestle 1-on-1, it would probably be Hayden Backlund. Excellent worker.
NWA.
Yeah, and he's been around the block. NWA, GCW, if I'm not mistaken. He did some time training at the Nightmare Factory, and such as Flux, came home, jumped into Grapplers Anonymous head first, and I mean, that dude's everywhere. Right now, he's currently out with a shoulder surgery, but when he gets back, I have no doubt in my mind he'll be better than ever and probably traveling even more.
Minor setbacks, we've already discussed that it builds character. Just
Absolutely.
building that patience, with which hopefully by this stage of his career he has a little bit, but
oh yeah,
some people takes a little bit longer, but neither here nor there. So we talk singles, we talk attack. Like, do you guys see yourself tagging long term? Like, I know I don't want to be like divisive and be like, oh, tag teams don't last forever, but like, some guys really like the tag, and other people do want to branch out. And with the beauty of the indies is you can kind of do both to some extent as well.
If we don't tag forever, let's say we're split up, this is my best friend that I talk to every day. So like you said, Rob, unless we got signed to a major company, there's still, your independent dates. So we could still be the third shift wherever. If I got to go here, he has to go here, we could say, hey, the second week of August, we got this together. So I feel like we'll always be together no matter what, which is a nice feeling.
I think of us a lot in the sense that I think of Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, the Outsiders. They weren't as much of a tag team as they were an entity, and no matter what, they were always connected in some way, shape, or form. And where one was, you knew the other one wasn't too far away, whether they were wrestling singles or not.
True.
Right on. I always think, and I mean, it's not always the best example because they fought quite a bit too, but like, the variations of Kevin Steen and El Generico and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
Sir. Yes,
like,
sir.
yes, sure, they've had some blood feuds in between things, but somehow they just get back together, and I guess.
And I'm sure at some point somebody's gonna want to see me and him beat the hell out of each other. So yeah, it's bound to happen.
I mean, if nothing else, if you want to stay the good part, or just go. Was it Royal Rumble '89 with Demolition? I think it's either '88 or '89, where they were like 1 and 2 into the Rumble.
In the Rumble, that's excellent.
Yeah, and they tore each other apart.
Like trainer says all the time, nobody will beat the hell out of you like your best friend.
I know
right.
It does.
But it was great. So like commentators like, oh no, what's going to happen here? And then like as soon as the bell rang, they just like tore each other apart. Just like there was no hesitation. The bell rang and they just started clubbing away at each other while everyone was like really worried about like, oh, what happens with partners together? Are they going to work together? Or are they going to wait are they going to wait and save their energy for the next person? Nope. Axe and Smash just started axing and smashing each other. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, whatever the future brings, we will see. I know here and now, my main goal is to try to push this and become the best tag team on the independents, the most desired tag team on the independents. Of course, things take time, but with hard work, dedication, and belief, anything can happen.
Well, right on. And that's why we got this podcast, to get that name out there, get the third shift throughout, like hopefully throughout New York and rest of the country. And you guys referenced off the recording that you're hop, skip, and the jump away from Canada. Are you guys visa ready? You can go across the border and wrestle. Well, we'll call it internationally because it's not in America anymore.
All you need is an enhanced license. You don't even need a visa.
Huh.
So eventually, that is definitely on the to-do list. There's so much action over in Canada. We just got to throw our names in the hat, and eventually we'll get a little bit of the action over there.
Well, as we said, things take time.
I've been applying to Montreal and Quebec, but I feel like I got to put my resume in French because I'm getting ignored there.
Yeah,
it's so hard to get bookings at the level that we're at, but it's about being persistent at the end of the day. And it might be no now, but in a year it might be yes. So don't be afraid to message again. Don't message next week, but
I mean that's any profession. You gotta build up that experience. You gotta build up that resume. Got to show that you've put the work in to get where you're at now, and prove that you're willing to do the work to get to the next level. I mean, almost every wrestler has started wrestling in, well, as WWE would tell you, in backroom bars and smoky taverns. When it's not entirely true, but like everybody's put their time in, whether it's been bars or high school gyms or just the gym in which the your training school is in doing shows. Like
my main fed in Pittsburgh is in a church, so shout out Von Bell.
Like I said, that's becoming. I don't want to say it's becoming like a thing because you still got to buy a church, but like there's been a handful of things that popping up that like they've gotten churches and they've not like done much of the line of remodeling. We got one about an hour and a half from us, Destination 6, is an old church, and they've done like no remodeling. They've just kind of replaced some of the religious iconography with posters and merch. But like you pay you pay the ticket and you go sit in a pew, and then they add an extra layer to the WTF onion. They also rock a 6-sided ring as well. So you're watching a 6-sided ring
working.
Pardon?
In the church.
And a 6-sided ring. That would be
in
interesting.
The church. I would need a picture.
And then like the VIPs are like in the choir pit, like too. Like it's
that's
like it's crazy, and I don't go there near enough because they're one of those companies that always like to run when I have something else going on that weekend. If you're I mean, granted, it's a 1 in 4 chance in theory with most wrestling companies, but man, it's a interesting thing which I wholly recommend anyone do. If you can go see wrestling in a church, or actually also got a soft spot for experience. Yeah, and then I also recommend just for the experience going to one of the no ring events too. Like those are always rather interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. I've seen one. That's all I'm going to say about that.
It all depends on what type of wrestling people enjoy, but that's the beauty of professional wrestling. There's a little bit. Oh, if you want to go to church and see a 6-sided ring, you do that. You want to watch no ring, do that, or you can just go to your local fed that has a regular ring and go hang out too, which is what I do most of the time. But
maybe I'll ultraviolet one day. I mean, RVD's in my top tier. I love hardcore, but ultraviolet's another level,
Oh yeah, you can toss a chair and it's good enough most of the time. I mean, it's easy for me to talk about these things when I'm not taking any shots to the head, unless I just trip and fall, because that's also what I do. But everybody's got their thing, and I mean, I just love it all. That's just because I'm a nerd. Wrestling is beautiful like that. But think of taking up a good chunk of you guys' time. We'll go ahead and wind things down with. So where can we find you guys on the socials, and where can we find you live and in person and or streaming in the next couple of weeks?
I am at Fluxing on MEM Instagram. My Facebook is my name, Sean P. Joyce. That is Flux. My YouTube channel is Flux, straight up. You want to plug yours?
You can find me on Instagram at Carter's Way 1. And you can find me on Facebook at Adam McFarlane. And really, if you go on social media, Instagram or on Facebook, and follow Grapple Pro, you will see anything that we got going on.
Our next show is Saturday, January 31st. It is at the Walleye Center, Hamburg, New York, south of Buffalo. We're looking forward to our show. We've been building our brand, as you can see. Going forward into the next year, we're looking forward to the talent we have coming in, the talent growing that we have in-house. And it's an exciting time for us right now. We feel like we're building a company as well as ourselves.
Yeah, here in Buffalo, there's a lot of competition, man, and we're just trying to do our best to, show the fans, the wrestling fans of Buffalo, what the best product is. I don't say it arrogantly, but I say all the time, humbly, I swear, the proof is in the pudding. You come watch a match, it's going to be an extremely high quality match, and we don't do it through going and getting these big name guys to come to our independent show. We build an entire card through in-house talent that was trained at Grapplers Anonymous by Mikey every night. The biggest name on our card is, Kevin Blackwood, Hayden Backlund, and those are guys that were trained in our house. So I believe in what we got going on, and if you're looking for some damn good wrestling, Grapple Pro is the place, in Buffalo, New York is the place to be, man.
And we do value Mikey Every Night's coaching. He is the best coach next to Dr. Tom that I've ever seen, and that's just because Doc's resume. Mikey has done so much for us, but as a coach, he's a very good coach. But as a person, Mikey Every Night is a low-down, disgusting dog. Good. And what we're going to do to him in 3 weeks is going to be nothing you've ever seen before. We are literally going to drop it on his head.
Mikey Every Night and the Patron Saints, Steve Gage, the other half of the Patron Saints, if they think they're going to get one up on Bud Good in 3 weeks, don't think that we're far, because we may not be on the card, we may not be booked, but I promise you we're not far away, especially knowing that the Patron Saints are going to be in the house, because I owe you one. I promise you, Mikey Every Night. I'm going to whoop your little ass.
As you can see, Rob, at home is getting pretty intense right now. We'll send you the match eventually when that happens.
Right on. Yeah, because that's one of the things I did pick up is, despite the training, you guys kind of have an acrimonious relationship with Mikey. So
it's a love-hate relationship. A little bit of history has been built in the last few months. I just wanted to have a respectful match with my trainer. He took it to another level, tried to take my knee out. We are where we are. You're going to have to pay the piper eventually every night.
See you soon.
Karma's a bee. That's what they say.
You got it, brother.
But gentlemen, thanks for hopping on the podcast. It was great just being able to talk wrestling and your experience as such, and talking to a Dr. Tom grad. As I said, I haven't got to talk to one of those yet. No offense intended. No offense intended, Adam.
None taken, brother. Hey, I say it all the time, man. If I had the guts to take that jump, dude, I would have. It took a certain individual, and he pulled it off. All respect.
But thank you guys for coming on. Good luck in the next coming months. And if I do my due diligence, like I try to do, I'll plug all the socials into the descriptor, even though it's not an easy click, thanks to how most of the audio platforms work nowadays, but I at least try to have it there to copy and paste. But again, thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you,
Thanks,
man.
Rob. We appreciate it.
I'm Adam Carter.
Flux.
We are the third shift. See you next time. It's time to clock in.
Coming up, put your threes up.
The Confusion Wrestling Podcast is a weekly podcast that is written and performed by Rob Kammer and hosted by Spotify for podcasters. The background music for this section is Ruined by Day, performed by Alan Schroeder. If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to help support, please like, subscribe, and tell your friends, family, and enemies. Leaving a review is helpful as well, because word-of-mouth advertisement is very important for us small podcasts. My social media links can be found in the description, but Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky are at The Nova of Cass. That's TheNovaofCass, and Facebook is MLW Confusion, all one word. If you'd like to support monetarily and help upgrade my equipment, please check out my virtual tip jar at ko-fi.com/Casanova, or if you prefer more bang for your buck, go to patreon.com/Casanova, that's CASSONOVA, where for as little as $2, backers get access to the podcast early and without those pesky ads, plus other exclusive content. So join the crew that is headed up by Keith Wynn, Alan Schroeder, Chris Zach, and Elenia, and check it out. You can also find t-shirts, coffee mugs, and other merch at the Confusion Podcast store on Teespring. Also, be sure to check out the affiliate links in the description below. For business inquiries such as ads, sponsorships, and etc., please email rzkamer, Kamerer, at comcast.net. Thank you all for listening.